Jake Martinez opened his eyes and felt like he was inside an oven. The air burned his lungs with every breath. Sweat poured down his face and back. He tried to remember how he got here, but his mind felt fuzzy from the heat. He had been on his ship, the USS Defiant, exploring space near a distant star. Then something huge and metal had grabbed his ship. Now he was alone in this hot metal room. The walls glowed with a strange blue light that hurt his eyes. Jake looked around. The room was small and empty. No windows, no doors that he could see, just smooth metal walls that got hotter every minute. He wore only his basic clothes. His uniform was gone, his boots were gone. Even his dog tags were missing. The heat kept getting worse. Jake felt dizzy. His mouth was dry like sand. He touched the wall and pulled his hand back fast. The metal was so hot it almost burned his skin. Words appeared on the wall in front of him. They glowed bright blue. Somehow he could read them even, though they looked like no language from Earth. Trial 1. Endurance of the Flesh. Survive until the sun sets on your homeworld. Jake did not understand what that meant. What trial? What homeworld? How long was that supposed to take? The words faded away and left him alone with the terrible heat. Minutes passed, then hours. The heat never stopped getting worse. Jake felt sick. His head pounded. His vision got blurry. He knew he was dying slowly. He tried to think. In the military, they taught him to stay calm and think through problems. But the heat made it hard to focus. He kept seeing things that were not there. His wife Lisa stood in the corner, calling his name. His daughter Amy played with toys made of fire. Not real, Jake said out loud. His voice was rough and dry. Just the heat messing with my head. But the hallucinations kept coming. He saw his old captain giving him orders. He saw his childhood dog running around the hot room. He saw snow falling, which made him want to cry because it looked so cool and nice. Jake tried to find shade, but there was no shade. He tried to find water, but there was no water. He pressed himself against the floor, hoping it might be cooler. It was not. His skin started to turn red. Then it started to blister. The pain was awful, but Jake refused to give up. Something deep inside him would not let him quit. Maybe it was his military training. Maybe it was just being human. He did not know, but he would not stop fighting. He remembered survival training from years ago. The instructor had been a tough old soldier named Sergeant Murphy. "Your body can take more than your mind thinks it can," Murphy had said. "When you think you are done, you still have 30% left." Jake tried to slow his breathing. He tried to think cool thoughts. He remembered swimming in cold lakes as a kid. He remembered winter mornings with frost on the windows. He saved every drop of spit in his mouth instead of swallowing it. The heat got so bad that Jake started seeing his skin bubble. He was not sure if that was real or another hallucination. Everything hurt. His head felt like it might explode. But he held on. He talked to himself to stay awake. "Come on, Jake. Lisa is waiting for you. Amy needs her dad. Do not quit now. Do not quit ever." More hallucinations came. He saw enemy soldiers from old wars. He saw monsters from movies. He saw his grandmother making cookies in her kitchen. All of them seemed real in the terrible heat. Jake lost track of time. Maybe he had been here for hours, maybe days. The blue light on the walls never changed. The heat never stopped. He felt like he was cooking from the inside out. Then something changed. The air got a tiny bit cooler. Not much, but enough for Jake to notice. He looked up at the walls. The blue light was getting dimmer. Suddenly the heat stopped. The walls went dark. Cool air flowed into the room from somewhere. Jake collapsed on the floor, gasping and shaking. His whole body hurt. His skin was red and blistered, but he was alive. A shape appeared in the room. It was tall and thin, made of what looked like clear crystal. It had 4 arms and no face that Jake could see. When it spoke, the voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "Impressive," it said. "Few species survive Trial 1 intact." Jake tried to sit up, but his body would not work right. "What are you?" he whispered. "I am Chief Zarthak," the alien said. "You have passed the first test. Your body endured heat that would kill most living things. But I must warn you, Trial 2 is different. Trial 2 has never been survived." Jake felt cold fear in his stomach, even though he was still burning hot from the heat trial. "What happens in Trial 2? The alien was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was even quieter. "Trial 2 tests not your body but your soul. In 3,000 years, no species has survived it. None." Jake closed his eyes. He had survived the impossible heat, but something in the alien's voice told him that Trial 2 would be much worse than anything he could imagine. Chief Zarthak helped Jake to his feet. The alien's crystal hands were surprisingly gentle. Jake could barely walk. His legs shook like leaves in the wind. Every step hurt because of his burned skin. They walked through halls that made no sense. The walls curved in impossible ways. Sometimes Jake felt like he was walking on the ceiling. Sometimes the floor seemed to be above his head. The alien moved easily through this strange place, but Jake felt sick and confused. "Where are we?" Jake asked. His voice was still rough from the heat. "This is a testing facility," Zarthak said. "We have used it for 3,000 of your years. We test species to see if they deserve to join our community among the stars." They came to a room filled with soft blue light. It was cooler here, and Jake felt better. Small metal bugs crawled over his skin. They did not hurt. Instead, they made his burns feel better. In minutes, his red and blistered skin looked normal again. Jake sat on something like a chair, but it moved and changed shape to fit his body perfectly. "You heal people after you try to kill them?" "The trials test your worth," Zarthak said. "If you pass, you earn a place in the great community of worlds. If you fail..." The alien did not finish the sentence. "What happens if we fail?" Zarthak was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Failed species are removed. They are considered too dangerous or too weak for contact with others." Jake felt cold. "You destroy entire worlds? It is necessary," Zarthak said, but he did not sound sure about it. Some species would bring only war and chaos to the galaxy. Others would not survive contact with more advanced beings. The trials protect everyone. Jake thought about Earth, about Lisa and Amy, and everyone he had ever known. "How many species have passed your trials?" 17, Zarthak said. "In 3,000 years, only 17. The number hit Jake like a punch. Thousands of species tested. Only 17 passed. The rest were destroyed. That seems like a lot of killing for protection." Zarthak moved in a way that might have been uncomfortable. "I have overseen many tests. I have watched many species fail. Until now, I believed the system was correct." "What changed your mind?" "You," Zarthak said simply. "Most species that survive Trial 1 are broken by it. They beg for mercy. They promise to serve us if we spare their worlds. You sit here and question our methods instead. Jake managed a weak smile. That is what humans do. We ask annoying questions. Zarthak made a sound that might have been laughter. Tell me about your species. What makes you different? So Jake talked. He told Zarthak about human history, about wars and peace, about art and science, about how humans never gave up, even when things looked hopeless, about how they always looked for new ways to solve old problems. We are not perfect, Jake said. We make mistakes, big ones, but we learn from them. We try to do better. Interesting, Zarthak said. The Zendari were wise and peaceful. They failed because they would not fight even to save themselves. The Kreks were strong warriors. They failed because they could only think of violence. Tell me, what would humans do when faced with an impossible choice? We would look for a third option, Jake said without thinking. Zarthak was very still. Explain. Humans do not like impossible choices. We usually decide that the choice itself is wrong. Then we try to change the rules. Change the rules, Zarthak repeated slowly. No species has ever tried to change the rules. Jake felt worried. Is that bad? Zarthak did not answer right away. When he did speak, his voice was very quiet. Trial 2 is designed around the idea that some choices cannot be avoided. It forces beings to choose between things they value most. The choice destroys their spirit, even if they survive. What kind of choices? Save your family or save your people. Protect the innocent or punish the guilty. Preserve your values or preserve your life. Zarthak's voice got even quieter. Every species breaks. Every single one. Jake felt that cold. Fear again. But you said no species has survived Trial 2. They break and then they give up. They stop fighting. They let themselves die rather than live with what they have chosen. Zarthak stood up and began walking in circles. In 3,000 years, no being has found a way past the impossible choices. Maybe because they were looking at it wrong, Jake said. Maybe the choice is not the real test. Zarthak stopped walking. What do you mean? Jake was not sure. The idea was still forming in his head. I do not know yet. But humans have a saying, when someone gives you only bad choices, make your own choice. That is not possible in Trial 2. The scenarios are absolute. The choices are binary. Save one thing or save another. There is no third option. Jake looked at the alien. Says who? For a long moment, Zarthak did not move. Then he made that sound like laughter again, but sadder this time. You truly are different. No species has ever questioned the basic structure of the trials. Maybe that is why they all failed. Zarthak walked to the wall and touched it. Pictures appeared, showing Jake's crew from the ship. They were in other rooms like this one. Some looked hurt, some looked scared, but they were alive. Your people are here too, Zarthak said. They will face Trial 2 as well. Even if you pass, they might not. Jake stood up fast. Let me talk to them. Let me help them. That is not permitted. Each being must face the trial alone. Why? Zarthak paused. Because that is how it has always been done. Jake smiled even though he was scared. I think I am starting to understand Trial 2. It is not really about the choices, is it? It is about whether we accept that the choices are all we have. Zarthak was very quiet. Then he said, You should rest. Trial 2 begins soon. I suggest you prepare yourself for the most difficult experience of your life. As Jake lay down on the strange bed, he thought about his crew, about Lisa and Amy back on Earth, about all the species that had died because they could not see past the choices they were given. He closed his eyes and made a promise. He would not just survive Trial 2, he would find a way to beat it completely, for his family, for his crew, for all the species that never got a second chance. The alien's words echoed in his mind. No species has ever survived Trial 2. Jake smiled in the darkness. Then I guess it is time for a first. Jake woke up in a white room. Everything was white. The walls, the floor, the ceiling. Even the air seemed white. 2 chairs sat in the middle of the room. Jake was in one chair. Someone was in the other chair. Jake's heart stopped. It was Amy, his 8-year-old daughter. She looked exactly like she did when he left Earth. Brown hair and pigtails, a small scar on her knee from falling off her bike. She wore her favorite yellow dress with flowers on it. "Daddy!" Amy jumped up and ran to him. She felt real when she hugged him. She smelled like the strawberry shampoo she always used. "I missed you so much." Jake wanted to hug her forever. But something felt wrong. Amy was supposed to be on Earth, millions of miles away. "Amy, how did you get here?" "I do not know, Daddy. I was playing in the yard, and then I was here." Amy looked around the white room. "Where are we? I want to go home." Before Jake could answer, the alien voice spoke. It came from everywhere and nowhere. Trial 2. The dissolution of self. You must choose who lives and who dies. Refuse to choose, and all perish. A big screen appeared on the wall. It showed pictures that made Jake sick to his stomach. On one side, he saw his spaceship crew. Ben Clark was tied to a chair. Lisa Hayes was locked in a cage. Tony Wright was hanging over a pit of fire. They looked scared and hurt. On the other side, he saw Amy's school. All her friends were trapped in a building that was on fire. Kids were crying and screaming. Teachers were trying to break down locked doors. Smoke was getting thicker. The alien voice spoke again. "Choose. Save your crew or save the children. You have 1 minute to decide." Amy looked at the screen and started crying. "Daddy, those are my friends. We have to help them." Jake felt like he was falling into a dark hole. This was impossible. How could he choose between his crew and innocent children? How could he let any of them die? "There has to be another way," Jake said to the room. "I refuse this choice." Refusing to choose means everyone dies, the voice said. 50 seconds remain. On the screen, the fire got bigger. His crew looked more scared. Amy grabbed his arm. "Please, Daddy, save my friends!" Jake's mind raced. This had to be a trick. Amy was not really here. The pictures might not be real. But what if they were? What if his choice really would save? Or kill people? 30 seconds. Jake looked at Amy. Even if she was not real, she felt real. She acted exactly like his daughter. If he chose his crew, he would watch this little girl's heart break. If he chose the children, he would let his friends die. "Daddy, please! 20 seconds!" Jake closed his eyes and made his choice. Save the children. On the screen, something fell from the sky and put out the fire. The children ran out safely. Amy clapped and hugged Jake. "Thank you, Daddy." But then Jake saw his crew die. One by one, they fell into the pit or were hurt by machines. Ben Clark looked right at the camera before he died. His lips moved like he was saying Jake's name. Jake felt something break inside his chest. He had killed his friends, people who trusted him, people who had families of their own. Amy disappeared. The white room changed. Now Jake sat across from Ben Clark. Ben looked exactly like he did before he died on the screen. "Why did you let me die, Jake?" Ben asked. "I have kids too. Why were Amy's friends more important than my children?" Jake could not answer. His throat felt closed. His hands shook. The voice spoke again. "Second choice. Save Earth or save the alien world of Kepler 442b. Both worlds have billions of innocent people." New pictures appeared. Earth on one side, blue and beautiful. A strange world on the other side, with purple oceans and silver cities. Both worlds had weapons pointed at them. Big weapons that could destroy everything. Choose. 1 minute. Jake heard screaming through the walls. Other voices he knew. His crew was in other rooms, facing their own impossible choices. He heard Lisa Hayes crying. He heard Tony Wright shouting angry words. This was what broke other species, not the heat of Trial 1, this endless parade of impossible choices. Save some people by killing others. Keep your values by destroying your world. Protect the innocent by becoming a killer. Jake stood up. "I choose to save both worlds." That option does not exist. 50 seconds. Then I make it exist. Jake walked to the wall and started hitting it with his fists. "I refuse your rules. I refuse your choices." The wall did not break, but something strange happened. For just a moment, Jake heard voices from other rooms more clearly. He heard Ben Clark shouting, "There has to be another way!" He heard Lisa Hayes saying, "The rules are stupid!" Jake stopped hitting the wall. An idea started, growing in his head. What if the other humans were thinking the same thing? What if they could work together somehow? 30 seconds. Jake put his ear to the wall and started tapping. 3 short taps, 3 long taps, 3 short taps. SOS in Morse code. He waited. 3 short taps came back from the other side. Then 3 long taps. Then 3 short taps. Ben was alive. Ben was thinking like Jake was thinking. Jake tapped out a message. "Do not choose. Find another way." Messages came back from both sides. His crew was alive. They were all facing the same impossible choices, and they were all starting to think the same thing. 20 seconds. Jake turned to face the screen. "I choose option 3. We work together to save everyone." That option does not exist. Then we make it exist. That is what humans do. The voice was quiet for a moment. Then it said, "You cannot change the fundamental structure of reality." Jake smiled. For the first time since Trial 2 started, he felt hope. "Watch us." The timer hit 0. But instead of dying, Jake heard his crew talking through the walls. They were comparing notes. They were making plans. They were doing what humans always did when faced with impossible situations. They were changing the rules of the game. The white room flickered like a broken television. The voice sounded confused. "This is not how Trial 2 works. You must choose." "No," Jake said simply. "We must find a better way. And we will." The white room shook like an earthquake. Jake heard angry alien voices coming from outside the walls. They were speaking fast in their own language, but somehow Jake understood pieces of it. Words like impossible and error and never happened before. Jake kept tapping on the walls. His crew tapped back. They were sharing information about their trials. Ben faced a choice between saving his family or saving a hospital full of sick people. Lisa had to choose between stopping a war or saving a ship full of refugees. Tony was told to kill an innocent person to save 1,000 others. Every choice was designed to break their spirits. Every choice made them choose between things they cared about deeply. But working together, they started to see patterns. The choices are fake. Jake tapped to Ben through the wall. How do you know? Came back. Because they want us to feel guilty no matter what we choose. Real moral problems do not work that way. Jake was right. Real moral problems had context. They had background. They had solutions that took time and thought to find. These choices were simple and brutal. They were designed to cause maximum emotional damage. Lisa's voice came through the wall, muffled but clear. Jake, I think I figured something out. What? The scenarios keep changing when I do not choose fast enough. First they said I had 1 minute. Then they gave me extra time. Then they changed the scenario completely. Jake felt excited. That means they are not real events. They are just tests to see how we react. Exactly. And if they are just tests, then we can refuse to take them. Through the walls, Jake heard his crew starting to sound more hopeful. They were doing what humans did best. They were solving a problem together by sharing ideas and building on each other's thoughts. The alien voice spoke again, but now it sounded worried. You must choose. The trial cannot continue until choices are made. Then end the trial, Jake called out. We quit. Quitting means failure. Failure means elimination of your species. Jake thought about that. Does it? Or does quitting mean we refuse to play a rigged game? Silence from the voice. Ben's voice came through the wall again. Jake, what if we are thinking about this wrong? What if Trial 2 is not about the choices we make? What do you mean? What if it is about whether we accept that those are the only choices available? Jake felt like someone had turned on a light in his brain. You mean the real test is whether we think outside the box? Right. Every other species probably focused on making the least bad choice. They never questioned whether the choice itself was valid. Lisa's voice joined in. And that is why they all failed. They broke their own spirits trying to solve unsolvable problems. Tony's voice came from another direction. But humans do not accept unsolvable problems. We assume there is always a better way if we are smart enough to find it. Jake felt proud of his crew. Even in this nightmare situation, they were working together and thinking clearly. This was why he loved serving with them. The room started changing again. New scenarios appeared on the screens. This time, Jake had to choose between saving his crew or saving Chief Zarthak. The alien stood in the room with him, looking exactly as he had before. Do it, Zarthak said quietly. Kill me and save your friends. I have overseen the death of countless species. My death would be justice. Jake looked at the alien. Is this really you, or another fake like Amy was? Zarthak seemed surprised by the question. I do not know. I remember entering this room to observe your trial, but now I am not certain what is real. That is the point, Jake said. The trial messes with our heads so much that we cannot tell what is real anymore. We make choices based on incomplete information and feel guilty about it forever. But you must choose, Zarthak said. The system requires it. Jake shook his head. The system is broken. Watch. Jake turned to face the wall where he knew alien. Observers were watching. We know you can hear us. We know you are watching. We refuse to participate in Trial 2 any further. You cannot refuse, the alien voice said. We just did, Ben called out from his room. We are not lab rats, Lisa added. We are intelligent beings who deserve better than this, Tony said. Jake continued. We understand what you are trying to test. You want to see if we can make hard choices without losing our humanity. But your test is designed wrong. It does not test wisdom or morality. It just tests how much pain we can take before we break. The room went very quiet. Even the humming of machines stopped. Furthermore, Jake said, we propose a different test. Instead of forcing us to choose between bad options, give us a real problem to solve, something where our choices matter and we can use our brains to find good solutions. Zarthak stared at Jake. No species has ever made demands of the consortium. Maybe that is why only 17 species have passed in 3,000 years. Jake replied. Maybe the problem is not with the species you test. Maybe the problem is with the test itself. The alien voice came back, but now it sounded different, less sure of itself. The trials have been used for millennia. They are proven methods. Proven to do what? Jake asked. To eliminate species that might actually improve your consortium? To keep out beings who ask hard questions and suggest better ways of doing things? Jake heard sounds from outside the room. Alien voices arguing. Some sounded angry, others sounded thoughtful. The humans had started something that was spreading beyond just their trial. We are not trying to be difficult, Jake continued. We are trying to be helpful. Our species has learned that the best solutions often come from changing the question, not just answering it better. Zarthak looked around the room like he was seeing it for the first time. You are saying the trial itself is the problem. Yes, and I think you know it too. That is why you warned me that no species survives Trial 2. Deep down, you know something is wrong with a test that always ends in death or madness. The room shimmered and began to fade. Jake could see his crew through the dissolving walls. They were all standing and looking determined. They had done something unprecedented in the history of the consortium. They had collectively refused to be broken. The white rooms disappeared completely. Jake found himself standing in a huge hall made of the same crystal material as Chief Zarthak. His crew was there, too, looking confused, but alive. Ben, Lisa, and Tony stood close together, checking to make sure everyone was okay. Around them, dozens of aliens filled the hall. They looked like Zarthak, but with different colors and shapes. Some were tall and thin, others were short and wide. All of them were talking at once in their grinding stone voices. Jake could understand some of what they were saying. The translation effect was still working. Words like unprecedented and impossible and dangerous filled the air, but he also heard words like interesting and perhaps and reconsider. Zarthak stood near the humans. He looked different now, less sure of himself, less like someone in charge and more like someone trying to figure out a difficult puzzle. An alien larger than the others stepped forward. Its crystal body was dark red, almost black. When it spoke, all the other aliens went quiet. I am high. Arbiter Velatar, it said. I have overseen the trials for 800 years. What you have done has never happened before. Jake stepped forward. His crew moved with him, staying close. We did not mean to cause trouble. We just refused to accept a bad situation. You questioned the fundamental basis of our testing system, Veltar said. You suggested that our methods are flawed. Are they? Lisa asked. Jake was proud of her for speaking up. In 3,000 years, only 17 species have passed. That seems like a pretty bad success rate for any system. Veltar was quiet for a long moment. The trials are designed to test the most important qualities a species can possess. The ability to endure hardship, and the wisdom to make difficult choices. But wisdom is not about making the best choice between bad options, Ben said. Wisdom is about finding better options that other people missed. Tony nodded. And endurance is not just about taking pain. It is about keeping your hope and creativity even when things look hopeless. Jake looked around the hall. Some aliens seemed angry at what the humans were saying, but others looked thoughtful. A few even seemed excited. What you are suggesting, Veltar said slowly, is that we have been testing for the wrong qualities. Not wrong, Jake said carefully, but incomplete. You test for survival and decision-making, but you do not test for problem-solving or cooperation or the ability to improve bad situations. Zarthak stepped forward. High Arbiter, I have observed many trials. These humans did something I have never seen. When faced with impossible choices, they refused to accept that the choices were truly impossible. They worked together to find alternatives. Working together was forbidden. Another alien said. Each being must face the trial alone. Why? Jake asked. Why does it have to be alone? Most real problems are solved by people working together. If you want to test how a species will behave in your galactic community, should you not test how, well, they cooperate? The hall erupted in alien voices again. Jake caught fragments of arguments. Some aliens thought the humans were dangerous rebels who should be eliminated immediately. Others thought they were raising good points about the testing system. High Arbiter Veltar raised one of his arms and everyone went quiet again. Chief Zarthak, in your assessment, are these humans fit to join the galactic community? Zarthak looked at Jake and his crew. High Arbiter, they are the most fit species I have ever observed. Not because they are perfect, but because they refuse to accept that problems cannot be solved. That could make them dangerous, another alien said. Or it could make them valuable, Zarthak replied. They have shown me that our testing system has flaws I never noticed. Perhaps other species that we eliminated might have been valuable too if we had tested them differently. Jake felt hope growing in his chest, but he also felt responsibility. This was not just about humanity anymore. This was about all the species. That might be tested in the future. High Arbiter, Jake said, we would like to make a proposal. Speak. Let us help you design better trials. Not easier trials, but fairer ones. Tests that look for the qualities you really want in a galactic community. Cooperation, creativity, problem-solving, the ability to learn and grow. Veltar considered this. And what would you want in return? A place in your community, Jake said. Not just for humans, but for any species that shows they can contribute something valuable, even if they do not fit your current definition of worthy. The aliens talked among themselves for a long time. Jake and his crew waited quietly. They had said what they needed to say. Now they had to trust that their words had made a difference. Finally, Veltar spoke again. Your proposal is unprecedented. It would require us to question thousands of years of tradition. Sometimes traditions need to be questioned, Lisa said gently. That is how progress happens. Very well, Veltar said. We will consider your proposal. But first, you must complete one final test. Jake felt his heart sink. Another trial? Not a trial, Veltar said. A demonstration. Show us how you would design a better test. Prove that your ideas can work in practice, not just in theory. Jake looked at his crew. They all nodded. This was their chance to make a real difference. We accept, Jake said. 6 months later, Jake stood in the same crystal hall. But now it looked different. Instead of arguing aliens, he saw groups of different species working together on problems. Humans worked with crystal beings like Zarthak. Strange floating creatures shared ideas with beings made of living metal. The new trials were not about enduring pain or making impossible choices. They were about cooperation, innovation, and the ability to make bad situations better. Species were tested in groups, working together to solve real problems that the galactic community faced. The success rate had gone from 17 species in 3,000 years to 12 new species in just 6 months. Chief Zarthak approached Jake. The alien had become something like a friend over the months of working together. I have news from Earth, Zarthak said. Your planet has been officially welcomed into the galactic community. Your wife and daughter will be proud. Jake smiled. Any word on when I can go home? Soon, Zarthak said. But first, there is one more thing. The High Arbiter wants to offer you a permanent position. Director of Trial Innovation. You would help us continue improving how we evaluate species. Jake thought about it. The work was important. They were giving species chances they never would have had under the old system. But he missed Lisa and Amy terribly. Can I bring my family here? Jake asked. Of course. The galactic community benefits from having families, not just individuals. Jake nodded. Then I accept. But I have one condition. What is that? We rename the trials. Instead of calling them tests of worthiness, we call them opportunities for growth. No species should be eliminated for failing. They should be helped to improve. Zarthak made that sound that Jake had learned was alien laughter. You humans never stop trying to make things better, do you? Jake grinned. That is what makes us human. As he looked around the hall at all the different species working together, Jake felt proud, not just of humanity, but of what they had all achieved together. They had not just survived an impossible test, they had changed it into something better. And that, Jake thought, was the most human thing of all.